Y'all can't say I don't have a certain passion in this channel. I am ranking top 5 women's featherweights of all time, by the way. Division that lasted 4, 5 years, right? It's probably the worst division in the UFC's history. I mean, for a lot of reasons, but I said I was going to do all the weight class lists because I don't like the idea of the pound for pound GOAT debate. I think it's stupid. I think it's easier to just do weight classes debate. Now, maybe for women, and that's a separate point, a pound pound debate for women, and that's a separate point I might talk about within this video, potentially. But, anyways, let's jump right in. Now, this one has probably been the most shocking name on an all-time list. I would never think Norma Dumont would be top 5 all-time in anything. No offense, Norma Dumont. I feel like we always think of her as being, like, good, but not great. Anyway, she's a good fighter. Like I just said, good, but not great. Great grappling. I mean, the clinch works great, obviously. The defense striking wise is pretty good. Good cardio. I mean, she just has good striking. I'd say, I don't know, it's between the good, decent range. I mean, she absolutely showed it against Serena Aldana, obviously. But, you know, I mean, the big thing here, though, is 7 fights with 5 wins in 3 years in WMA is, like, insane activity. The bar is just that low that if you stay active and get wins, you can be top 5 all time in a weight class, apparently, in WMA. I may make a separate video on why the bar is so low in WMA and how the UFC can potentially fix that, potentially. But I feel like those videos are a little bit out there fixing the UFC type stuff. I mean, she has the most fights, most fight time, and most wins in UFC women's featherweight history. Now, she did lose to Megan Anderson, who, spoiler alert, is number 4. But I do feel like the 5, 4, and 3 spots are pretty much interchangeable with people like Norma Dumont, Megan Anderson, Holly Holm, Felicia Spencer, and Drain Duranamy. I kind of pulled the number 3s. I feel like those people can kind of interchange in that top 3. But overall, I mean, the thing I put down too is that she never challenged for a title, which makes it a tough claim. Honestly, that is once again kind of the bar in WMA. Like, if you challenge for a title at any point, you were probably good enough. You know what I mean? There's obviously some extreme circumstances, and then another thing I put down is she's 5-2 in the record. These kind of filler points because I kind of ran out of points on a lot of these. What I noticed. But yeah, it goes to show you how low the bar is, especially for this weight class. Now, the aforementioned Megan Anderson, I am a fan. You could perhaps say Megan Anderson Glazer. I mean, like, close your eyes and think about this here. 6 foot, 170 pounds, 10-5 record, knockout power, underrated submission game. That sounds like, no offense, Megan Anderson, a regional men's fighter. So that's pretty solid. You know, I mean, the profile at least. But Megan Anderson, like I said, good fighter, good striking, great power, underrated grappling, good submission game. You know, it's definitely a dynamic that she had. Former title challenger against WMA Go. I mean, again, if you're Messiah Go, you're doing something right. I mean, most fights are tied at least, most finishes, most KOs or TKO wins, most subs in UFC Women's featherweight history. Colin, she kind of got dismantled, absolutely destroyed, and sent packing into the fifth dimension from Interstellar by Amanda Nunes. But there's a lot to that. I'm not going to try to defend Megan Anderson in this video. I mean, that would be a very interesting video in defense of Megan Anderson's resume. But yeah, she wasn't really good defensively, plain and simple. Now, 3-3 is a bad record, but she did beat Norma Dumont, who I gave her that head-to-head jump up, which we'll get into that eventually. Maybe that's like I'm thinking about making a video on how I make my videos to explain my logic to some people, especially because that lightweights video, I just rushed it out with no logic, no thought, and just let my bias take over. And I'm definitely gonna redo that video, but I want to see if Islam can get a huge name on his resume as like a Ilya Toptoro or like a Sarukian matchup on his resume, and then Poirier could also get a huge retirement fight. I want to see that. That's just a spoiler alert. Again, this video is kind of like a check-in video with the women's featherweight being in the background. There's not much to talk about, and I still got to get this video to like 10 minutes. I'm at 5 right now, so we're doing good. Anyways, after getting destroyed by Amanda Nunes, it kind of left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. Maybe people forget that Megan Anderson at one point was actually this hyped up prospect that was going to do good. Again, 6 foot, 170 pound. That's a pretty good profile, man. That's just that stuff doesn't really come along in WMA typically. I mean, 3-3 record also, getting back to my previous point, does suck. But one of them being the WMA GOAT and the other being Holly Holm, really, who's a former champion and potentially future Hall of Famer, isn't really that bad. You know what I mean? Especially when you're a younger prospect type against Holly Holm. I mean, notable wins here are Norma Dumont and Kat Zingano. I think I have to go back to Norma Dumont and give those notable wins here. No one cares I made that mistake, but Felicia Spencer, Aspen Ladd, Carol Rosa, and Chelsea Chandler. Now to number 3. This one's very simple here. I might not even need notes. Jeraine Duranamy is she's pretty good. I mean, she's a good fighter, great striking from the kickboxing background, good counter striking kind of thing. Pair it with that speed, the footwork. I call it movement as like an overarching thing. Obviously, really good. She was the first champion of the weight class against Holly Holm. Second in title fight wins in UFC Women's featherweight history with 1. So I believe third rather. Sorry. Again, people don't really notice these mistakes. These videos get like 10 views, but who really cares at the end of the day? Because Cyborg second, well, it's a tie, but who cares? Low key, she's kind of just being held up top 3 here because she was a champion. You low key could slide her down to 4th. Honestly, if you wanted to reorganize it based off your criteria, you could honestly put Norma Dumont top 3 all time just because she has all those wins and that activity rate in such a short time, like the Jim Miller of the weight class, I guess, which is a super great comparison. But Jeraine Duranamy doesn't have great cardio, and her grappling is not that great either. I mean, they're below average, I would say, average to below average, I would say. Whereas the striking is a really standout feature, and she is only 1-0 in the weight class, so there's not really much to go off. But she is a champion, so I think on paper she would go top 3, given the history on the weight class lasting 4 years. Although I think not even attempting to fight Cyborg greatly damages her resume, I would say, in impact. Speaking of Cyborg, I'm going to mention here, though, she does have a failed PED test early in her career. No one really cares, honestly. We kind of already knew. I mean, no offense, but great fighter, good striking, great power, and then you pair it all up with the pretty solid grappling. I mean, she was very dominant in her day, super well-rounded, obviously physical specimen, for lack of a better word. Former champ with 2 title defenses, second most wins, most KOs and TKO wins, most title defenses, and then most title fight wins, I believe, right, in women's featherweight history. The only issue is that when she gets cornered into brawls or faces like a really technical wrestler, her cardio and defense, as in takedown defense and striking defense, gets very much exposed. She's not really good in those situations. When you drag her into the deep waters, into the ugly situations, like a really technical wrestler or a really tough brawl, she's not really that good. And then Yana Santos is a questionable title fight opponent. I believe she lost her fight and then got an immediate title shot on her UFC debut. Overall, it's just something to know. I mean, I don't think people know who Yana Santos is or really care. It's something to note there. I mean, she's 4-1 in the weight class. That she has I believe 3 weird catchweight fights if you want to add those in there, but I didn't because I just don't know what really to do with those. 140 pound catchweight fights. Now the notable win to talk about is Holly Holm, obviously. And then Amanda Nunes, I think this one's pretty much consensus, and I don't really need to say much here. I'll honestly skip to the cons. We kind of know. I mean, low-key, women's featherweight was just made for Cyborg initially, but then it kind of became just a means to make Amanda Nunes a champ because she couldn't cut to 125. I mean, she fought Valentina, twice at 35. Valentina is not really a 35er. I don't know. Just a weird time in WMMA when you had two. It's like honestly having if George St. Pierre was an 85er and Jones was a 205er, right? This was 20 was in his prime at the same time. You know what I mean? It was just a weird time where it was like you have these two potential WMMA goats that are a weight class near each other. Let's just have them fight. And now it's gonna be how Zong and Valentina is gonna be treated when that happens. But yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. Especially if the division ended pretty much immediately after she retired, or relatively around. You know what I mean? Like the division didn't really have another champion or last long. You know what I mean? Felicia Spencer is kind of a questionable title fight matchup. I mean, she wasn't really the strongest, but she's enough to be top 5, I guess. But that's debatable. Again, the bar in this weight class is do you have 2 wins? Check yes, you are top 5 basically. That's kind of how low the bar is. She's a 3-0 record in the weight class though. It's kind of filler, but again, that's for all of them. So I mean, that's solid. I mean, what the notable wins were? I mean, Chris Cyborg and Megan Anderson. I perhaps should have combined the bantamweight wins as well, but the bantamweight video should be coming out soon for women's bantamweight, and then I'm gonna do women's flyweight, and then we'll be pretty much done until I have to remake lightweight. That's really it. And yeah, this series will officially be over. I had a lot of fun in this series. I mean, there's a lot of interesting ones. I've kind of go back and revisit. Definitely. I think I should revisit bantamweight in retrospect, I had a crazy idea where I'm gonna put my old slide on one and my new, kind of compare them, because low key people are making strong cases for Robbins Bantamweight. I don't think he is, but I think he could be honestly 3 or 2. I'll be real. I think people are making some strong cases there. I feel like middleweight also a DDP is super interesting, and I got a lot of flack. My Anderson Silva PED thing got a lot of flack. I'm thinking of changing my rule of blanket PEDs, but again, it's not fair at that point. I feel like cheaters shouldn't be able to get the prize. You know what I mean? This is kind of a strange video, but I hope you guys enjoyed this really weird, rambly video. We have about 20 seconds here, so I'll just talk about some stuff. I got a spring sports season coming up, so you're gonna get a lot more videos like these where it's kind of just filler to pass the time before we can get back into better, quote unquote, better production, more effort into the videos. But yeah, that's about it, everybody. Uh, I guess I'm the world's only Megan Anderson glazer, and thanks for watching, and God bless.